Commander Ethan Wright stared at the main screen of Mars Defense Station as the U.S. Orion exploded into a bright flash of light. The diplomatic vessel had carried 27 of Earth's finest scientists, diplomats, and crew. Now they were gone. Just atoms scattered across the Martian orbit. "Tell me we recorded that," Wright said, his voice steady despite the horror he felt inside. Lieutenant Amanda Miller nodded beside him. Her face was pale, but her hands moved quickly across the control panel. "Full spectrum capture, sir. No mistake about what happened." The Craxian vessel fired without warning. The room fell silent. Humanity's first contact with an alien species had just ended in an act of war. Wright took a deep breath. At 42 years old, he had spent his entire career preparing for space conflict that most people thought would never come. Now it was here, and he was the ranking officer at humanity's most advanced military outpost. "Lieutenant, send the recording to Earth Command. Priority Alpha. Then lock down this station and activate all defense systems." The 6 other officers on the command deck moved with practiced speed. No one panicked, though Wright could see the fear in their eyes. They had trained for this, but training was different from watching real people die. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the alien ship," called out Communications Officer Peter Grant. "On screen," Wright ordered. The image that appeared showed a being unlike anything humans had encountered before. The Craxian had blue-gray skin with ridges where a human would have eyebrows. 4 yellow eyes blinked independently of each other. When it spoke, its mouth moved in strange ways, but the translation came through clearly. "Your species is primitive and unworthy. Surrender your resources and accept servitude, or face extinction." The screen went blank before Wright could respond. Miller pulled up data on her screen. "Sir, based on the information we gathered during their approach, the Craxians have conquered 6 other species across their region of the galaxy. Each was less technologically advanced than themselves. They expect us to be easy prey," Wright said. "Commander," called Dr. Olivia Garcia as she rushed onto the bridge. As the station's xenobiologist, she had been analyzing the limited data on the Craxians since they entered the solar system 3 days ago. "I found something important." Wright nodded for her to continue. "Their biology. It's different from ours in a key way. Their nervous system appears to be far more developed than human standard. Based on these readings, they likely experience sensory input at least 3 times more intensely than we do." Wright's eyes narrowed. A strength, but maybe also a weakness. The station shook suddenly. Warning lights flashed red across every screen. "Multiple objects entering Mars orbit," reported Sensor Officer Ben Rogers. "They appear to be dropships. The Craxians are landing forces on the surface." Wright stood straighter. "Send word to all Mars colonies to evacuate to the emergency bunkers. Then get me a direct line to Earth Command." As the officers carried out his orders, Wright turned to stare at the tactical display. Already it showed multiple Craxian vessels spreading throughout the solar system. They moved with the confidence of conquerors who had never known defeat. "They think we'll surrender," Miller said quietly beside him. Wright shook his head. "They don't know humans very well, do they?" In his office 10 minutes later, Wright faced the grim expression of General Patricia Collins on his secure screen. "We received your data, Commander," she said. "Earth is preparing for war. All civilian space traffic has been grounded. Defense platforms are activating worldwide." "What are my orders, General?" "Hold the Mars station as long as possible. Gather any intelligence you can on these Craxians. Earth needs time to prepare." Wright nodded. "And if we can't hold?" Collins' face showed no emotion, but her voice carried the weight of command. "Then make them pay for every inch, Commander. Show them that humans don't surrender easily." "Yes, General." Wright ended the transmission and turned to face his crew. The first interstellar war in human history had begun, and they were on the front line. 3 months passed since the Craxians first attacked. Their ships now patrolled the outer edges of the solar system. They had built bases on several moons of Jupiter and Saturn. From these bases, they launched small attacks on human outposts. They seemed to be taking their time, confident in their victory. But humans were not sitting idle. Colonel Frank Bennett checked his oxygen level one more time. The reading showed 60 minutes remaining. That would be enough. He looked at his team. 5 of Earth's best soldiers hidden inside a supply container on Titan, Saturn's largest moon. Everyone clear on the mission? He asked through the secure comm channel. Tech specialist Susan Bell nodded as she checked her equipment. Get in, plant the sensors, gather intel on their systems, and get out. And if we meet resistance? Bennett asked. Combat veteran Daniel Kelly patted the strange-looking weapon at his side. Test the new sonic disruptors. See if Dr. Garcia's research was right about their hearing. The container bumped and shifted. They had landed at the Craxian base. Bennett held up his hand, 5 fingers spread. 5 minutes until they moved. The Craxians had no idea that their automated cargo ship now carried human soldiers. They believed humans were hiding on Earth, afraid to fight back. This would be the first real test of that belief. When the container opened, 2 Craxian workers stood nearby, their backs turned. Bennett gave the signal. His team moved silently, using the tranquilizer darts that Earth scientists had designed based on the limited samples of Craxian biology. Both aliens dropped without making a sound. Bag them, Bennett ordered. Bell, get what you need from them, then start on their systems. Bell quickly attached small devices to the unconscious aliens. The devices would record their biological responses. Then she moved to the nearest computer terminal. Her fingers flew across her translator device as she broke into the alien network. Their security is good, but not designed to keep anyone out. They never expected anyone to get this far, she said with a small smile. Kelly and the others secured the area, placing small cameras that would continue to send information back to Earth long after they left. Colonel, you need to see this, Bell called out after 10 minutes of work. Bennett moved to her side. On the screen, he saw maps of Craxian ship movements. They're gathering for a major attack on Mars in 2 weeks, Bell explained. But that's not all. Look at these reports from their commanders. Bennett read the translated text with growing interest. They're confused by our defense patterns. We're not fighting the way they expected. It gets better, Bell said. This report complains that human tactics are chaotic and without proper military doctrine. They can't predict what we'll do next because we don't follow the same rules of engagement they're used to. Kelly joined them, his expression serious. So they're used to fighting enemies who follow some kind of standard alien warfare rulebook. Seems like it, Bennett replied. And we never got that rulebook. A loud alarm suddenly blared throughout the base. Bennett cursed under his breath. Time to test those new weapons, he said. Bell, grab all the data you can. 2 minutes, then we move to extraction. When the first group of armed Craxians rushed into the room, Kelly activated his sonic disruptor. The weapon didn't look dangerous, just a small device that emitted a focused sound wave. The effect on the aliens was immediate and dramatic. They dropped their weapons and clutched at the sides of their heads, falling to their knees in obvious pain. Dr. Garcia was right, Bell said, looking up from her data collection. Their hearing is much more sensitive than ours. Bennett nodded grimly. Get everything you can on their reactions. This could be the edge we need. 20 minutes later, they were back on their stealth shuttle, breaking away from Titan's atmosphere. Behind them, the Craxian base was in chaos. As Bennett prepared the encrypted transmission to Earth Command, he allowed himself a small smile. The Craxians thought they were hunting helpless prey. They were about to learn that humans were predators too. Begin Operation Nightmare, he said into the comm. We've confirmed the weakness. Time to show these aliens what humans are really capable of. Dr. William Hayes sat in his lab deep under the Rocky Mountains. Around him, screens showed brain scans of the 2 captured Craxians from the Titan mission. Next to these were human brain scans for comparison. The differences were striking. Their sensory processing centers are nearly 3 times the size of ours, he explained to General Patricia Collins, who stood with her arms crossed, watching his work. And that makes them vulnerable, she asked. Hayes nodded. Very. Think of it like this. What's mildly unpleasant to us is excruciating to them. Certain sounds, lights, even smells, they process everything more intensely. He pressed a button on his console. The high-pitched tone filled the room. It was annoying but tolerable to human ears. This sound, Hayes continued, caused seizure-like symptoms in our test subjects. And that's just the beginning. Collins looked at the data with growing interest. How quickly can you weaponize this? We already have prototypes. Small devices that emit targeted frequencies. They're ready for field testing. In the communications center 3 levels down, Lieutenant Jack Howard led a team of specialists working on a different aspect of Operation Nightmare. Their mission: psychological warfare. The feed is ready, said Howard to his team. Let's see how our friends respond to this. On his screen, a Craxian patrol ship orbiting Europa suddenly received a transmission. Howard had spent weeks figuring out how to hack into their communications network. Now it was paying off. What the Craxians saw was a carefully edited collection of Earth's most disturbing horror movies, violent historical footage, and specially designed patterns that strobed at frequencies calibrated to their visual processing. Howard couldn't see the aliens' reactions directly, but the data streaming back told the story. Heart rates spiking. Ship systems being frantically adjusted as they tried to block the transmission. And then, the ship breaking formation, moving erratically. They're running, said one of Howard's team members, her voice filled with disbelief. Howard nodded. Send the second package to the next target. Let's see if it works twice. By the end of the week, reports came in from across the solar system. Craxian ships were behaving strangely. Some abandoned their posts. Others fired at empty space. Their once precise formations fell into disarray. In the Craxian command ship orbiting Neptune, Supreme Commander Zexcal received disturbing reports from his field officers. Soldiers are experiencing sensory distress, read one report. Many claim to see humans where none exist. Request permission to retreat from Earth-Moon position, read another. Crew experiencing combat hesitation after exposure to human transmissions. Zexcal had conquered 6 worlds across the galaxy. Never had his forces encountered resistance like this. The humans were not fighting properly. Instead of meeting Craxian ships in direct battle, they attacked the minds of his soldiers. He drafted an urgent message to the Craxian High Command. The humans possess unexpected capabilities. They attack our senses, not our ships. Soldiers report nightmares even when awake. Request immediate reinforcements. On Earth, General Collins met with the United Earth Defense Council. The room was filled with military leaders from nations that had once been enemies. Now they worked together against a common threat. Operation Nightmare is showing results, Collins reported. The Craxians are off balance. Their attacks have decreased by 40% in the last week. Is it time for a direct counterattack? Asked the representative from China. Collins nodded to Commander Wright, who had been evacuated from Mars when the station finally fell to Craxian forces. The Craxians expect us to be afraid, Wright said. They've never faced an enemy that turned fear into a weapon. We've identified weaknesses in their fleet formations. With the new sonic weapons Dr. Hayes has developed, we can target those weaknesses. Collins stood up. I propose we launch a coordinated attack. Hit them while they're confused. The vote was unanimous. After months of defensive actions, humanity would take the fight to the enemy. As the meeting ended, Wright looked at the battle plans taking shape on the main screen. The Craxians had come expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they had found a nightmare. 6 months after the first attack, the U.S. Valiant moved silently through space. Captain Laura Simmons sat in the command chair, watching the displays that showed her ship and 30 others approaching the Craxian base on Ganymede, Jupiter's largest moon. "All ships report ready, Captain," said her first officer, Alan Reeves. "Banshee weapon systems are charged and locked." Simmons nodded. The Banshee was humanity's newest weapon, developed from Dr. Hayes' research. It fired concentrated pulses of sound at frequencies that humans could barely hear, but that would cause intense pain to Craxian nervous systems. "Remember," Simmons said to her crew, "we hit them hard and fast. No standard attack patterns. Keep them guessing." The fleet had practiced for weeks. Each ship had different orders. Some would attack directly. Others would feint and retreat. The Craxians would find no pattern to predict. "Begin the attack," ordered Simmons. The human ships accelerated toward the Craxian base. On Ganymede's surface, alarm signals blared as the aliens detected the approaching fleet. The first shots came from the Craxians, energy weapons that lit up space with bright blue streaks. Most missed their targets as the human ships moved in seemingly random directions. Then the human fleet fired back. The Banshee weapons made no visible beams, but their effect was immediate. Craxian ships began to move erratically. Some fired at nothing. Others turned and fled. "They're in disarray," reported Reeves with surprise. "The Banshee weapons are working even better than expected." Simmons allowed herself a small smile. "Push forward. Land the ground teams while their defenses are confused." On Earth, Major Steve Porter led militia training in what had once been Central Park in New York. The open space was now filled with obstacle courses and training equipment. Men and women of all ages practiced with weapons and communication devices. "Remember," Porter shouted to the group, "the Craxians expect order. They expect rules. We give them chaos." He pointed to the map showing Craxian positions in the solar system. "They're used to enemies that retreat when outgunned, that surrender when their capital is taken, that fight during the day and rest at night. We do none of that." A young woman raised her hand. "But they have better weapons, better ships. How do we win?" Porter smiled grimly. "By being what they fear most, unpredictable. By attacking from all directions. By never giving up. By being human." In a makeshift prison at the United Nations complex, Dr. Olivia Garcia interviewed a captured Craxian commander. Through a translator device, she asked questions about Craxian military history. "You've conquered 6 worlds before ours," she said. "Did any fight back like we do?" The alien's 4 yellow eyes blinked in sequence. "None," it said through the translator. "All followed the proper protocols of war. When defeated in space, they surrendered their planets. It is the civilized way." "And us?" asked Garcia. The Craxian's skin darkened, a sign of emotion. "You humans don't fight like a civilized species. You fight like the monsters from the darkest corners of space." Garcia studied the alien carefully. "Is that why your soldiers are afraid? We've intercepted your communications. Your troops are experiencing what you call combat hesitation. They're afraid of us." "Fear is unknown in Craxian military history," the alien said, but its skin darkened further. "Until now." Back in space, the battle for Ganymede was ending. The human fleet had taken the moon with minimal losses. Captain Simmons walked through the captured Craxian base, observing as her crew gathered intelligence and technology. "Captain," called one of her officers, "we found their communication center. They were sending regular reports to their high command." Simmons read the last transmission the Craxians had tried to send before their defeat. "Humans do not follow any known warfare doctrine. They attack without pattern or reason. Weapons target our neural systems. Request immediate evacuation from this system." Simmons handed the report to her communications officer. "Send this to Earth Command with a note. Operation Nightmare is working. The Craxians are learning to fear us." 9 months into the war, the skies above Earth darkened as hundreds of Craxian warships entered orbit. This was not a small attack. This was the full might of the Craxian fleet, gathered from across their empire for one massive assault. Supreme Commander Zexkull stood on the bridge of his flagship. His skin had grown pale from lack of rest. The human resistance had proven far stronger than expected. The loss of their bases on Mars, Ganymede, and Titan had forced this desperate move. "Begin the landing," he ordered. "Take their major cities first. Once their leaders surrender, the rest will follow." Dropships descended toward Earth by the thousands. Craxian soldiers, nervous but determined, prepared for ground combat. They had been told that humans were physically weaker, technologically inferior, but they had also heard stories of the monsters who fought without rules. In New York, Major Steve Porter watched the ships descend. Around him, civilians moved quickly but calmly to their assigned positions. There was no panic, only grim determination. "They're following the invasion plan from their military handbook," Porter said to his second-in-command. "Just like we expected." For months, every citizen had trained for this day. Schools, hospitals, office buildings, all had been prepared. The Craxians would find no easy targets, no helpless civilians. As the first alien troops landed in Central Park, they were met with silence. The city appeared empty. They moved forward cautiously, weapons ready. Then the attack came, not from soldiers in uniform, but from every direction. Store owners fired from shop windows. Office workers threw specially designed sound grenades from rooftops. Teenagers on bicycles raced past, dropping devices that emitted the frequencies that caused Craxian nervous systems to misfire. The aliens tried to form defensive positions, but their training had never prepared them for this kind of fight. They expected armies, not an entire population that fought like guerrilla warriors. Similar scenes played out in cities across the planet. The Craxians found that taking Earth was like trying to hold water in their hands. The more they squeezed, the more slipped through their fingers. At the underwater base in the Atlantic Ocean, Chief Engineer Nancy Howard put the finishing touches on Project Phantom. Around her, technicians prepared a fleet of small, sleek ships. "The stealth technology is ready," she reported to General Collins. "The Craxians won't see these ships coming." Collins nodded with approval. "Launch as soon as possible. Target their command ships in orbit." The Phantom ships rose from the ocean silently, their surfaces absorbing radar and light, making them nearly invisible to Craxian sensors. They carried no weapons except the Banshee devices, now refined to target only the highest-ranking Craxians based on their neural patterns. In orbit, Supreme Commander Zexcal received troubling reports from the surface. His landing forces were meeting fierce resistance everywhere. No city had surrendered. And worse, his soldiers were deserting. "Impossible," he growled. "Craxians do not desert." His second-in-command approached cautiously. "It's happening across all landing zones, Supreme Commander. Soldiers are refusing to go to the surface. They call it the Nightmare Planet. Some are sabotaging their own ships rather than land." Zexcal was about to respond when alarms blared across the bridge. "Unknown ships approaching. Call the sensor operator. They're not showing on our screens, but visual confirms multiple small vessels." Before Zexcal could give an order, a piercing sound filled the bridge. He fell to his knees, clutching his head in agony. Around him, other high-ranking officers did the same. But strangely, the lower-ranked crew seemed less affected. Dr. Garcia had refined the Banshee technology well. It now targeted the subtle differences in neural pathways between Craxian ranks. The leadership caste, with their more complex nervous systems, suffered the most. As command ships throughout the Craxian fleet fell into chaos, the human resistance on Earth pushed harder. The carefully planned invasion was falling apart. In his moments of clarity between waves of pain, Zexcal made a decision that no Craxian Supreme Commander had ever made before. "Retreat," he gasped to his second-in-command. "Get our ships out of this system." The orders spread through the fleet. The Craxians were abandoning their invasion of the Nightmare Planet. 1 month after the failed invasion of Earth, Captain Ryan Foster stood on the bridge of the U.S. Defiant. The ship was humanity's first true deep space vessel, built using a combination of Earth technology and systems reverse-engineered from captured Craxian ships. "All systems ready, Captain," reported his executive officer, Linda Chen. "The jump drive is charged." Foster nodded. This would be the first time humans traveled beyond their solar system. The Defiant and 5 sister ships were about to take the fight to the Craxian forward bases in the Kuiper Belt, the region of space beyond Neptune. "Send the message to all ships," Foster ordered. "Operation Pursuit is a go." The human fleet moved silently toward their targets. Unlike the bright, obvious engines of Craxian vessels, human ships now used stealth technology developed from Project Phantom. They were shadows moving through the darkness of space. "We're in range of the first base," Chen reported after several hours of travel. Foster looked at the tactical display. The Craxian base was a large structure built into a small ice moon. The aliens believed they were safe this far from Earth. They were wrong. "Begin transmission," Foster ordered. The communications officer activated a special system designed by Lieutenant Jack Howard. It sent a targeted signal directly into the Craxian base's network. The content: footage of defeated Craxian forces retreating from Earth, along with images of captured Craxian technology being dismantled and improved by human engineers. The message was clear. Humans were not just defending their world. They were learning, adapting, and becoming stronger with each encounter. "Base defenses are powering down," Chen reported with surprise. "They're surrendering, Captain." Foster hadn't expected this. "No tricks. Confirm their systems are truly offline." After careful scanning, Chen nodded. "Confirmed. It seems the psychological warfare is working even better than we hoped." Similar scenes played out at other Craxian bases throughout the Kuiper Belt. Only one base fought back, and it was quickly overwhelmed by the human fleet's new weapons. On the captured flagship of Supreme Commander Zexkull, Dr. Olivia Garcia worked with Lieutenant Amanda Miller on their most important project yet. They had been studying Craxian biology and technology for months. "The neural patterns of their command cast are distinct," Garcia explained to General Collins via video link. "We can now target their leaders specifically, leaving the regular soldiers unharmed." Miller demonstrated the device they had created. This emitter affects only Craxians with the neural structure of their leadership. It doesn't kill them. It simply disrupts their ability to give orders or make decisions. Collins nodded with approval. "Can it work across their empire?" "That's the beauty of it," Garcia said. "We can transmit the effect through their own communication network. Once we access their main relay station, we can send this signal to every Craxian command center in their territory." The plan was ambitious but possible. Human hackers had been studying Craxian communications for months. They had already broken many of their encryption codes. 2 weeks later, the U.S. Defiant approached the edge of Craxian territory. Using the jump drive taken from their technology, the human ship had crossed vast distances that would have taken years with Earth's previous propulsion systems. Captain Foster received a message from Earth Command. It was simple and direct. "Proceed to Craxian Communications Hub Delta. Deploy the neural disruptor. Show them they cannot escape the nightmare." Foster shared the message with his crew. They had all volunteered for this mission, knowing they might never return. But the determination on their faces showed no fear. The Craxians thought they found an easy target when they discovered Earth, Foster told his crew. Instead, they woke something they don't understand. "We don't fight just to protect our world. We fight to win, completely and permanently." He looked at the star map showing Craxian territory. Their empire spanned dozens of star systems, with hundreds of conquered worlds. "Set course for the communications hub," he ordered. "It's time the entire Craxian empire learned what their leaders now know. Attacking humans leads only to defeat." As the Defiant activated its jump drive, Foster thought about how far humanity had come in just 1 year. From merely helpless defenders to taking the fight to enemy territory. The Craxians had started this war. Humans would finish it. 1 year after the first Craxian attack on the U.S. Orion, Ambassador Paul Warren stood on the bridge of the U.S. Peace. The ship approached the Craxian homeworld, a blue-green planet orbiting a yellow star, much like Earth's sun. 5 other human ships followed behind, including the U.S. Defiant. Their mission was not destruction, but diplomacy, though they came prepared for battle if necessary. The Craxian Supreme Council has agreed to meet with us, Warren told Commander Ethan Wright, who stood beside him. Wright had survived the fall of Mars Station and fought through the entire war. Now he served as military advisor to the diplomatic mission. "Do you think they'll honor the agreement?" Wright asked. Warren looked at the planet growing larger on the view screen. "They have little choice. After we use their own communications network to disable their leadership across half their empire, they know they can't win." Dr. Olivia Garcia joined them, carrying data tablets with information about Craxian biology and culture. The neural disruptor affected their command structure in all 27 star systems. Their empire is in chaos. Some of their conquered worlds are already rebelling. The U.S. Peace entered orbit around the Craxian homeworld. A delegation from the Supreme Council requested permission to come aboard rather than meet on their planet. The humans agreed. 6 Craxian leaders arrived in the meeting room. Their skin was paler than the Craxians the humans had fought, marking them as the highest caste in their society. They moved stiffly, their 4 eyes blinking nervously as they looked at the human representatives. The lead Craxian spoke through a translator. "We have come to discuss terms of surrender." Ambassador Warren shook his head. "Not surrender. Peace. Humans don't want your empire. We want to ensure you never threaten Earth or any other peaceful world again." The terms were simple but firm. The Craxians would withdraw from all conquered worlds. They would pay reparations to Earth for the damage they had caused. They would share their technology, particularly their faster-than-light travel systems. In return, humans would help stabilize their empire as it transitioned to a peaceful confederation. The supreme leader of the Craxians, a female with elaborate markings on her face, stared at Commander Wright for a long moment. "How?" she finally asked. "How did your species defeat us? We studied your world before attacking. You were divided. Your technology was primitive compared to ours. You had never even left your solar system. By every measure, you should have surrendered within days." Wright looked at the alien leader. He thought about all the humans had endured in the past year, the city's damage, the lives lost, the rapid advances they had made under the pressure of survival. "You came expecting to find prey," Wright said. "But instead you found humanity. We've spent thousands of years fighting ourselves, preparing for enemies like you without even knowing it. We've imagined every nightmare, every horror, every way to fight back against the darkness. When you attacked us, you didn't find a species afraid of monsters. You found a species that had already learned how to become them when necessary." The Craxian leader's skin darkened with emotion. "And now, will you destroy our world as revenge?" Warren stepped forward. "No, that's another thing about humans. We can show mercy, even to those who didn't show it to us. We offer peace, not just for our benefit, but for yours and all other species." The peace treaty was signed that day. As news spread throughout the galaxy, the Craxian Empire reformed into a peaceful confederation. The conquered worlds gained their freedom, and humanity took its place among the stars. 6 months later, Commander Wright stood in the United Nations building in New York, looking at the new star charts being distributed to all spacefaring races. Next to Earth was a simple message, written in multiple languages. "The humans of Earth welcome peaceful visitors. All others be warned. Their world is a nightmare you cannot escape." As children played in the park outside, ships built with a combination of human ingenuity and alien technology prepared for peaceful missions to distant stars. Humanity had faced its first interstellar threat and emerged stronger. They were ready for whatever the universe might bring next.